Order. Order. Question number 12, Dr. Jian.
Mr. Speaker,
Order. I've called Dr. Jian.
my question is to the Minister of Consumer Affairs and asks, how will the Credit Contracts and Financial Services Law Reform Bill target loan sharks and protect New Zealand consumers?
Honourable Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Credit Contracts and Financial Services Law Reform Bill is the biggest overhaul of consumer law, credit law in a decade, and will make wide-ranging changes to consumer credit and repossession law. The changes represent a crackdown on unscrupulous lenders who prey on desperate people and leave them and their families trapped in a spiral of debt. These changes will usher in an era where lenders must act responsibly, where consumers must have the information they need, and where there are significant consequences for those who breach the law. Mr. Speaker, rewriting the rules for consumer lending forms an important part of the business growth agenda of this government to help boost, Mr. Speaker, trust and confidence in our financial markets.
Supplementary question, Dr. Jian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What changes are proposed in this bill to ensure more informed borrowers and more responsible lenders?
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Craig Foss.
And correcting a word I used earlier, Mr. Speaker, unscrupulous, not the word I unintentionally used earlier, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Credit Contracts and Financial Services Law Reform Bill introduces a wide range of changes to ensure more informed borrowers and responsible lenders. Lenders will have to take responsibility for the likely effect of the credit decisions they make for their customers. There will be better controls against misleading, deceptive or confusing advertising of credit. I welcome cross-party support for this bill, Mr. Speaker, and I encourage individuals and organisations to make submissions as it goes through its select committee process.
Supplementary question, Carol Beaumont.
What analysis has he undertaken of the damage caused to vulnerable families by the government's failure to deal with the issue of inadequate consumer credit laws and better regulate loan sharks, truck shops and payday lenders over the last 5 years?
Good question.
Order.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Craig Foss.
Mr. Speaker, I can assure that member that this bill actually absolutely targets that behaviour of some individuals which sadly exploit the vulnerabilities of many New Zealanders.
Point of order.
What analysis?
Order. Can the member please repeat the question?
Certainly.
It was not answered.
What analysis has he undertaken of the damage caused to vulnerable families by the government's failure to deal with the issue of inadequate consumer credit laws and better regulate loan sharks, truck shops and payday lenders over the last 5 years?
Honourable Craig Foss.
Mr. Speaker, specifically no specific analysis, Mr. Speaker, but the identification of the problem has been there for quite some time, thus this bill being introduced and before select committee.
Supplementary question, Carol Beaumont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Why has he ignored the experience of the increasing number of overseas jurisdictions that provide for interest rate controls and failed to provide for such controls in the Credit Contracts and Financial Services Law Reform Bill? And is he genuine in his suggestion that people submit on this issue anyway?
Speaker.
Honourable Craig Foss.
I am genuine.
That concludes questions for oral answer. I call on Government Order of the Day number 1.
Government Notice of Motion number 1 relating to public organisation status for